Now let me show you how you could use core location in setting up an application where it gets the user's location information while it's in the foreground or if the app is in the background. I currently have a view controller for a simple iOS application. So this view controller has some methods. One for setting up the status label, and the second is for showing an alert, prompting the user to enable the location services, and a couple of methods for setting the application state. So to get started, make sure you import the core location framework, and we are going to use the core location manager in setting up our location service. So I'm going to create the core location manager instance in which we'll be using throughout the app. So we also have another method here. It's called initialize location services. In this method, we will be configuring our location services. So before we move any further, we also need to set the view controller as the delegate of the core location manager, and we're going to set it with self. So self refers to the view controller instance. So as soon as it's set, then the view controller becomes the delegate of the location manager. And now it's asking us to implement the core location delegate. If I click that and then click fix, it should add the location manager delegate here. While I am going to move that out to an extension. So extensions is just a way of extending uh, your class, in this case the view controller, where you can add your methods to extend the behavior of your main class. So in this case, I am conforming to the CL location manager delegate, and I'm interested to use a couple of the delegates methods, while in your case you may be using more than what I'm going to use in this tutorial, but I'm going to use a couple of them. One is to get the current authorization update, and then also the location information. So let me just locate that method. Oh, it's the first one, this one. So this method will be called when there's an updated location information. I am just going to print the location array or CL location. With CL location, you will be able to get the coordinates, the longitude and latitude of the user. And I'm going to print the locations. Okay, and here, as soon as the user is prompted for the authorization, then the authorization status will change based on what the user has chosen. So we are going to retrieve the authorization status and set it into another variable called status, and then I'm going to use the manager instance of the location manager, and then we're going to get the authorization status. So authorization status is an enum. So we will be using a switch statement to be able to go through each of the cases. So one of the cases is not determined. Okay, status here. And then one of the cases is not determined. And I'm just going to copy this. I think there are 5 cases. So not determined, and then denied, and then the other one is restricted, and the other one is authorized always, and then authorized when in use. So I'm just going to print a string when any of these cases is the current state. Okay, so I'm going to quickly fill this. Then for restricted, So whenever the location manager did change, authorization method is called. It should print the current authorization status for us. So the default will be unknown. Okay, the not determined a case is normally when the app is installed the first time. So the user haven't interacted with the permission dialog, and then denied if the user didn't give the permission. Restricted is for some reason the application is restricted from getting the location of the user. One case would be when a parental control is in place. For the authorize always and authorize when in use, it's when the user approves the use of the user's location. So any of these will be printed depending on the current status of the authorization. Okay, so we already have set up our delegate, which is going to be the view controller, and then we also set up our delegate. The second thing that we are going to do is we're going to check if the location services is enabled, and we are going to use a guard statement. The that method that we're going to use is a class method. So location services or service enabled. So checking if it's enabled. If it's not enabled, we're going to return. And optionally, you can do something before the return is called. Otherwise, if the location services is enabled, we can ask for authorization. So I'm going to use the location services instance and then request for authorization. You have a couple options. One is to always authorization. It means you can always get location updates when even the app is in the background, or when the app is not being used, or when the app is in use. But in this case, I'm going to choose the always authorization. So we already have initialized our location services and set up the delegate, and then check if it's enabled. Otherwise, we request for authorization. So if we run this application, it should already be calling our delegate methods. Alright, so currently it says not determined. As I explained earlier, not determined because it's the first time that we have installed the app, and then the user haven't interacted with the permission alert. And we also received an instruction that says that we need to enable the add a couple of keys, and then along with those keys, we need to explain to the user how we are going to use the location information of the user. So because the location information is a privacy sensitive data, and we need to set that up in the info.plist, and we're going to do that now. So I'm just going to zoom in. Alright, we'll be able to add it by clicking the plus button here, and then it will open up a list, and in this list you can choose the correct key or option. So since it's under privacy, then it's in the privacy section, and I'll be choosing a couple of them. One is the location always and when in use, usage description, and we are required to add the reason. So to track the users location, and then I'm just going to copy that. I'll add another one, which is going to be under the privacy section, location, and this one, when in use, usage description. And it's possible that you will be confused with these keys. You just have to test your app if you got the right one. But if you're watching this video, so you'll know which one to use. So we can try this again, see if it's working. Alright, so that instruction or information went away, and it means that we have done it correctly. You make sure that you have those keys in the info.plist. Otherwise, when you publish your app, you will get the same warning. Now that we've done it correctly, we get this permission dialog or alert, and then as a user, I can now choose either of the options: allow while using the app, or do not allow. If I tap the do not allow, then I'll get the denied status. So every time the status changes, the delegate method is being called. So here it says we denied. Alright, so as the developer or the one designing the application, we should be able to handle those different cases. So for this demonstration, I will be displaying an alert prompting the user that they have to enable the location services for the app, because we need it so that the app could operate properly. Alright, so once the app is running and then we get denied, we prompt the user to enable it. So in this example, the user can either tap the cancel button or go to the settings application. Alright, so what if the user tap the cancel button, then nothing happens, but then the access to location services text will be displayed. It's to remind the user that we really need their permission so that the app could operate properly. Alright, if I'm going to run the application again, then I should be asked again if I wanted to enable it. So let's pretend that I have already enabled that in the settings app. So I'm just going to remove this again. Okay, so there are still other cases that you need to handle, which is the not determined, restricted, unauthorized, and then when in use. So when the user has authorization, then we could start getting the location updates. But then if the status is not determined or restricted, we could actually tell the user what's the current status or change the UI or behavior of our app. And I could easily do that here by changing the state, which is probably this one, to tell the user that the location services is needed, or action to the access to the location services. So when it's not determined, then I can call this method. Otherwise, if it's restricted, then I can call this method to change the state that says that the app is restricted from using the location services. So here, this is just my example showing you that you need to handle those different cases of the authorization so that the user experience is pleasant and the user wouldn't be annoyed of how you design your application. Now the next step is to handle these cases. So when the user already have given us the authorization, then we can update or get updates of the location information. So I can do that by using the location services instance and then call the method to get we can start updating the location. Okay, so I think we already handled all those cases, and we can test this again and see if it's working. So earlier I did not allow, and then right now I'm going to choose one of the options, either allow once or allow while using the app. I'm going to try the allow once. Okay, so since it's allow once, and then we receive the authorized when in use status, which eventually started the location updates. Now we're getting these updates printed on the debugger. And then all of these data is coming from the simulator, and then we just enabled it using the city run simulation of the location. So I can just switch, but in this case I opted to use this, and then you can see these updates. So in the debugger you can see the latitude and longitude, and also the speed, the course, and the date information. Okay, what if I am going to run the application again, or build and run it again? I am again prompted with the permission because I said earlier, or I opted the allow once only earlier. So every time the app is going to use the location services, then the user will be prompted if they previously opted or chose allow once. But if I'm going to allow while using the app, then I'll be getting it again, and then if I rerun the app or launch the app, then I wouldn't be asked for the authorization anymore. It will just resume getting the updates from the location services. Okay, now that we're able to get location updates, and then if we're running the application and then getting the location updates, what if I send the app to the background? What will happen? So we stop getting location updates. We can opt to receive location updates even if the app is in the background by doing a few steps. First is going to the project, and then here in the signing and capabilities, under the capability tab, you click that, and then you choose the background modes. So these are modes when you would want to run something when the app is in the background. And then I'm going to check the location updates. It means that I'm still going to get location updates even the app is in the background. And the next thing that I need to do in the initialize location services, I just need to enable the background updates. So I'm going to allow background location updates and set it to true. And I need to somehow let the user know that I'm retrieving their location information while the app is running in the background. So I'm going to show the background location status or location indicator, and then I'm going to set it to true. It's very important that you enable the shows background location indicator if you intend your app to be still collecting location information even if it's in the background. So now our app is running, and then it's getting the location updates, and I'm going to send this app in the background. It's still running, and then it's asking me if I need to change the type of authorization to only when using or while using, or change to always allow. So I'm going to just choose the always allow. Okay, so every time the app is in the background, I'm allowing the app to get my location information. And since we have enabled the indicator, we can see this blue indicator. It will be different when you then have the notch. So it would be a bar that runs from the left to the right, and otherwise it's just going to be here. But if I click that, it opens the app. So every time I send it back, I see the indicator while still getting the location updates in the background. Alright, what we did is we imported the core location, and then we created the core location manager. And it's very important that we check if the location services is enabled before we request for location or request for authorization. And then if we don't have the location services enabled, then we can do something, change the state of the app, and to receive authorization status, location information, and other information from the core location manager, you just implement the location manager delegate. And then also, if you are going to opt to use the background mode, then you have to enable these two, while enabling the background mode can be done in the signing in capabilities, and then add the background mode's location updates. And you also uh, do not forget to add these keys for the permission text explaining how you're going to use the user's location information. So that's how you use core location in retrieving the user's current location information.